Hey everyone, and welcome. So, whether you're a landlord, a tenant, or maybe you're just curious about real estate, you've definitely come across a lease. You know, that document that's just packed with legal jargon and can feel totally overwhelming. Well, today we're going to decode it. We're going to answer the big question. When it comes to a property's expenses, who really pays? All right, let's get into it.
So, to get things off, let me ask you a question. When you're dealing with any property, what do you think is the one document that pretty much governs everything else?
You guessed it, it's the lease. And this contract, it's not just some formality. Oh no, it is the financial and operational playbook for a property. It lays out every single right and every responsibility for years to come. Getting this right is, well, it's everything.
So how do the pros make sense of these super complex documents? Well, they use a process, and it's called lease administration. Let's break down what that actually means. You know, lease administration isn't just a quick read-through. It's a professional, really systematic process of dissecting the lease. You're documenting every right, every term, every single obligation to make sure both the owner and the tenant know exactly what they've signed up for. It's all about getting ahead of any potential problems.
And what's really great about this is how simple the why is. I mean, it all boils down to three critical questions, right? 1. What do I bill? 2. What services am I supposed to provide? And 3, the big one we're tackling today, who pays for them?
Okay, before we dive any deeper, we need to talk about a fundamental split in the world of leases, because not all of them are created equal, and the biggest difference you're going to find is between residential and commercial properties.
On the residential side of things, it's usually pretty straightforward. You'll often find one standard cookie-cutter lease for an entire apartment building. But in the commercial world, we're talking offices, retail, industrial spaces. It's kind of like the Wild West. The leases are highly customized, way more complex, and that's where the little details matter a lot.
And this brings us to the main event. We are going to unpack the most common types of commercial leases so you can see exactly how that financial responsibility shifts from the owner over to the tenant.
We're going to focus on the big three. You've got the gross lease, the net lease, and the percentage rent lease. If you can understand these three, you'll have a super powerful lens to view pretty much any commercial real estate deal out there.
First up, the gross lease. The easiest way to think about this one is as the all-inclusive option for the tenant. You pay one flat rent, and the owner takes care of all the building's operating expenses. Taxes, insurance, maintenance, the whole shebang. A tenant loves this because it's so predictable. But for the owner, it's riskier. If utilities or taxes spike, that cost comes right out of their pocket. Now, a popular twist on this is a base year, where the tenant only pays for expense increases after their first year.
All right, next is the net lease. And this is where the financial responsibility really starts to pivot from the owner over to the tenant. In this setup, the tenant pays their base rent plus some or maybe even all of the property's operating expenses. You see this a lot in industrial leases, and landlords tend to prefer it because it offloads the risk of rising costs.
Now, the term net can be a little confusing because it's not just one type of lease. Think of it like leveling up in terms of responsibility. Each net you add to the name adds another category of expenses right onto the tenant's bill.
Okay, so here's how it all breaks down. A single net lease, that usually means the tenant pays the property taxes. A double net, or NN, adds property insurance to that bill. And then you have the famous triple net, or NNN lease. Here, the tenant pays for it all: taxes, insurance, and all the maintenance. The landlord basically just collects a check, which is why investors absolutely love these for their stable, hands-off income. Our third type is the percentage rent lease, and this one's a totally different model. It's most common in places like shopping centers. The tenant pays a lower base rent, but then they add a percentage of their gross sales right on top of that. This basically turns the landlord into a business partner. If the store does great, the landlord shares in that success. It's definitely a higher risk but also higher reward play for the property owner.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second. To really get why a lease can transfer all these responsibilities, we need to look at a fundamental legal concept of property ownership. It's called the bundle of rights.
See, when you own a property, you don't just own the physical dirt in the building, you own a set of legal rights. These include the right to possess it, to control it, to keep other people out, to enjoy it, and, of course, to sell it. It's the complete package.
And this right here, this gets to the very core of what a lease is. It's a legal contract where the owner takes one of those rights from their bundle, the right of possession, and just temporarily hands it over to the tenant.
In exchange for rent, the tenant gets to use and occupy that space. Simple as that.
So after all that, let's bring it all together. Let's get to the bottom line. After exploring all these different structures, how do we clearly answer that first question? Who pays for what?
This chart makes it crystal clear. In a gross lease, it's simple. The owner pays all the operating expenses. In a triple net lease, the tenant pays for all of them. And in a standard net lease, you land somewhere in the middle, with the tenant picking up some or even most of those costs. This is the whole spectrum of financial responsibility.
And this is why this all matters so much. The lease you sign is not just a piece of paper. It is the one document that defines your financial risk and your responsibilities for the entire term of the agreement, which could be 3, 5, even 10 years down the road.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. Now that you know the difference, from the perspective of a tenant or a landlord, which of these lease types do you think carries the most risk? And on the flip side, which one holds the potential for the greatest reward? The answer, as you can probably guess, isn't as simple as it seems. Thanks for watching.